believe it's week 5 already. Moving fast. It'll be a year on the calendar almost that the staff and myself has been in place, or at least the beginnings of it. So, I'd be remiss if I don't thank the fans each and every opportunity I can. We have one of the best environments in all of college football. I thought it showed again at the start of that game on Thursday night. It's a special place, and I think our kids really appreciate the opportunity to play in that environment. Obviously, North Carolina is an explosive team, a dynamic team. I think, their quarterback, very impressed with. He can throw it on a dime, strong arm, make all the throws, flick of a wrist. But also, he's a very talented runner. He's a big-bodied guy that runs the ball hard and likes to run the ball. So we got our hands full with that group, with this offense, and, I'll open it up for questions at this point, please.
Let's go, Andy. I asked you after the game what has sort of been slowing down this run offense. And it's tough to find out right after a game like that. Have you had time to review stuff, and have you seen anything that maybe is going to pique your interest there that's not working right now?
Yeah, obviously that's the question of the day, maybe outside the penalty situation. And so it was at the top of my list for our offensive staff. And in a nutshell, we're just not getting enough guys executing, in the run game each opportunity. We'll have 8 or 9 guys execute correctly, and we'll have 10 or 11 not do their job. And, a lot of times it just takes 1 or 2 to misfire on a run play. And that's what was going on more than anything. So we're working hard at cleaning it up, owning mistakes, making sure we're teaching it the right way, making sure we're not doing too much, the things that creep in on execution problems, that we got to get these guys. It doesn't matter what we know, it's what they know and what they can execute. So execution was the biggest reason at this point.
Is there more you need to do in terms of attacking the perimeter and not being so up the middle with the run game, or anything you can unlock with this offense and attacking different areas?
Yeah, I think we tried to put some window dressing on some things. Thursday night, we got to carry out some of those to spread people out a little bit. I think what you're asking is fair. I think we're bottled up in there, and it's easy to kind of tee off on us. So that's definitely been a point of discussion.
Paul? Brent, according to TeamRankings.com, you guys are ranked 131st or first, depending on how you want to look at it, in penalties per game. What, if any, ramifications are going to happen moving forward for guys committing penalties, especially on the egregious end of things?
Yeah, I think a couple things come to mind there, right? It's obviously been also something that's at the top of our list this week. And you have the high number of penalties in week 1, and you follow it up with, I think, 5 each of the next 2 weeks. So you feel like maybe you got it nipped in the bud. And you come back and have an ugly game with them, which, in the team meeting, I asked those guys, if we eliminate 10 penalties, could we have won the football game? And to a man, the answer was yes. The yardage we gave up and the time, the timing of some of those penalties, just, there's a couple things that come to mind for me. You don't want to put it in the hands of the officials. And when you can pull off or make a better decision about how you play the play or defend the play and not put it in the hands of the officials, we want to do that. And we're talking about that. We review the penalties as a staff. I want a written description. That's just been our policy since week 1 of each penalty and how it occurred. And then we talk about the penalty battle with the team and, where it fell and what it meant for the football game. I'd met with the captains and the staff. We're going to implement I just think you have to be more mindful in certain situations, right? Not to grab, right. Not to late hit, not to let your hand slide up on the face. There's going to be some that are unavoidable that happen, but so I want the group to be more mindful. So we're going to implement a policy, where we've got some consequences for penalties of all sorts.
Have you noticed, is it more offense, more defense? Is it a balance? Is that not something that you track?
It is, of course it is. We know what each penalty, where it came and which side of the ball or what phase. In this particular game, the more impactful penalties were on defense, obviously. And I look at them closely. I think, the majority of them were avoidable. I think we can be better there. I know we can be. But we have to have guys mindful of how they're playing the play and where their hands are and the timing of things and timing of hits and the crown of their helmet. You just got to get them thinking that way. So I think, the discussion point about what it meant and how it impacted the game, I think, having some consequences, even for a 5-yarder. We're going to have consequences on Sundays to get these guys, it's not that anybody wants to commit a penalty. They weren't those type of egregious penalties. It was in the moment, a late hit. You're trying to rush the quarterback and your hand slides up, and some of those calls. It can go either way. To be honest, I've seen them. There was 2 hits on their quarterback. One went our way and one went the other way. Very similar timing of the hit. So I think we just have to be more mindful and and work on it. We've had officials at multiple practices throughout the spring, throughout camp to help that. I tell them to call it like they see it. And some of those days it's been ACC officials, to be sure that our guys are operating in the framework. So obviously a big emphasis there.
David,
Yeah.
With the weather you guys are going to face in Chapel Hill, what can you do? What are you guys going to do to prepare the guys for that and just the rain, what you guys are going to face there?
Yeah, so we got to get wet ball work, right? And we'll get some of that each day. Coach Glenn does a great job of that with our quarterbacks, our backs, and our receivers. But, it also goes back to Stuart Carter and our equipment staff. And I think you're thinking about a couple of things. You're thinking about if it's just a rainy game, right, all the way through, what can you do at halftime? Are you changing out socks? Are you changing out undershirts? Are you having a second pair of cleats? All those things will be important. It's tacky towels. It's anything that NCAA permits that can help you in wet weather games. And then it's also the possibility of a delay, right? We've talked about that. I've been part of 3- and 4-hour delays. And what do you do for your football team at that time? Is there hot food? Is there video opportunity? Is there a place for them to stretch out? All those things. So we're having those discussions because it certainly could impact the game.
With Jalen Stroman out for the first half due to targeting, how does that adjust your guys' game plan defensively?
Yeah, it puts a little more onus on some guys, on Nyquil Hawkins, nickel situation, potentially DJ Harvey. Those guys having to play a few more snaps than they normally would. So obviously Stroman's practicing and in the rotation, but so there's a little more onus on those 2 guys, and you may call the game a little differently based on how it's unfolding without Stroman in there.
Hey, Brent. On Thursday night, you said the guys pressed a little bit when things got out of whack. Did that surprise you at all? And kind of what can be done to remedy that, to get them to play a little looser when times get tough?
Yeah, and I think that's part of our culture right now, and I've talked to the team about it a couple of times since Thursday night. Just the idea that they don't have to go above and beyond. You just do everything you can. You fight and claw to do your job to the best of your abilities. That's what's required in those situations, and the plays will come when you start. Particularly leaders, and it's so important to them, and they start trying to do things outside of what their job is, and then all of a sudden they don't do their job very well. I don't want to say, there's never too much effort, but sometimes there's a slight degree of panic. There's a slight degree of hurrying. There's a slight degree of, just sloppiness that occurs when you're not just based in your fundamentals and techniques. And I do believe after watching the film, it wasn't our guys were playing hard, and they just got to play hard in the right way.
We're going to have a chance to talk to Will Ross tomorrow. I'm just curious, the way he's performed so far, just your impressions of him and maybe what your first impressions were of him when you met him, because I know he's kind of new to this, right?
Yeah, first of all, he's he's not one of those guys that jumps off the page at you. He's real subtle, has kind of a quiet demeanor about him, and but at the same time, you get a good feel for him. He's confident. He's a quality guy. He's smart. Got good football IQ. I'm very proud of him at this point. He's worked really hard to get to this. He knew what he wanted to do. It was a big mountain to climb, and here he is, 6 of 6, and helping us where he can. So I think, I'm excited for him. It's the whole operation, right? I mean, Peter's had a couple of nice, grabs and get the ball down for the hold, and so it's that team. They're doing pretty well together right now.
Let's go back to Anthony. We'll come back to Andy.
Coach, 3 of the next 4 on the road outside of the weather situation, obviously. Anything you do to prepare the guys to play in kind of more hostile environments?
Yeah, I mean, we crank music at practice, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. And, generally we'll discuss what it's going to be like when we arrive at the stadium, what the locker room's like. Are there things that – I don't want the guys surprised. Is there going to be a big crowd? Is there going to be a small crowd? What's the weather going to be like? Is the sideline tight? Is the locker room pink? All those kind of things. We'll talk about those things to help prepare them. But again, once we step on that 100-yard deal, I mean, it's kind of about what we do.
And there's been some emotional games with UNC the last couple of years. Do you get the sense that this game maybe means a little bit more to some of the guys who have been here over the last few years?
I don't get that sense. I mean, I think the focus really right now has been on us, and we got to continue to improve. I think, the football team feels like obviously West Virginia played well, but if we'd played to our potential, we got a real good chance to come out a winner on Thursday night. And so that's the objective. What do we got to do as coaches and players to make sure we reach our potential, whatever that is right now. And, continue to develop depth, which is going to be important over the next 8 weeks, and so where we get with it.
Go Andy, David, and then Zoom.
I know Dorian missed the second half in that game. It looked like he has hand wrapped or something like that. I'm not sure if that was it, but do you feel like he's okay for this week, or do you have
Yeah, we'll see. Today's kind of the first test back in pads, and I'm hopeful for sure. He's an important part of what we do, and our best coverage player. So I'm hopeful, but that could be something that goes all the way up to Friday. We'll see. We'll see.
And I ask you about Malachi. It seems every week. Do you feel like he's close?
Yeah, he's going to dress out again today. He's going to do individual and group work, and it's kind of a step-by-step process. If he looks really good today, then they advance him tomorrow, and so on and so forth. So, at this point, I think he's still, he's a candidate for this weekend, but things have to go well through the week.
And Kelly Lawson, you have him listed as an or at the will linebacker spot. What has he shown to move into that spot? And what do you like more with him at the will as opposed to the Sam where he's been working before this?
Yeah, I think he's shown a couple of things, and I've talked about Kelly a bunch. He had a setback. He had a minor surgery that set him back, and he missed a couple of weeks of practice leading up to the season. And so, he's just now kind of getting back to form where we were excited about him. And he's played Will, he's played Sam, and he can play both. But the way he throws his body around, that's exciting to me at Will linebacker. We've got we got a couple of guys rolling through there with McDonald and Keller. But, Kelly's going to get more of an opportunity this weekend. He's long, he can run, he plays very hard. And I think he's finally, for the most part, back feeling pretty good.
Hey, Brent, big picture, we've talked a lot about depth this season. It's hard to believe we're into week 5. Are you starting to see some of that wear and tear a little bit? And, I mean, how big is it just to even have that extra 2 days going into this gauntlet of, UNC, Pitt, Miami?
Yeah, I think, obviously depth's always important. And, I think we've got a couple of different wide receivers that are starting to play more and we're feeling a little better about. But, we also have the conversations as a staff that, we have to find the right opportunity to roll guys and to put guys into a game, in a backed up situation or a healthy situation where you can take a few snaps off a starter and gain some experience for a backup. So it's something that we talk about daily, is building the depth, to the best we can.
Last one in the room for Brooke.
playing on Thursday. You get to go to a high school game Friday night. I saw Coach Bowen at Bradford
2 games.
Christiansburg. Oh, you went to, so what games?
And
did
one
you-
on Saturday.
Okay, what games did you go to this week?
I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about what games I was
Okay.
at, but I went to 2 Friday night. We were out of here about 7:30 on Friday morning. I think I got to the house Thursday night about 1 or 2. Man, we packed up. 7 of us got on the school plane, and we scoured the area. We were in Northern Virginia. We were really, all over the state, to be honest. And we had everybody out but one coach, and had a great day. The high school coaches in the state were fantastic. Saw a bunch of our commitments, and well worth the time. Not necessarily an easy thing to do, but we were all very glad we did it, and well received, and showed our investment in the state, in our footprint.
How important do you feel like it is to show face? Like you said, it was a late night, early morning on those Fridays after a game when you're tired, and it's hard to want to go and on a Friday night and go watch a game.
Yeah, I think the coaches appreciate it. When you talk about being invested in the footprint and what you're willing to do and sacrifice and show how important they are to you, we weren't going to miss an opportunity. I don't get many opportunities as the head coach, and nor do the coordinators, to get out on the road during the season. And so, we hit 7 or 8 schools and went to win, a game Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock, and get home about 5, and it's time for mom and the girls to get some quality time with dad before the grind starts again on Sunday. So we had a full weekend.
Well, thanks, Coach.
Yeah.
All right, let's head out to Zoom for a few.
On Zoom, please use the raise hand feature for questions, and we'll start with Andrew, please.
Hey, Coach, you just were kind of talking about him a second ago, but Jaden Keller seemed like he got a lot more snaps against West Virginia, and he also had a lot of tackles, 7 in the game. Just kind of talk about the maturation you're seeing from him and just the important piece on this team he'll be in the future.
Yeah, Jaden's a really talented guy. He's got great size. He runs well. And right now he's kind of feast or famine. I think that's how I would kind of talk about him right now. He'll make a couple of good plays in each game, and then he'll have a couple of plays where you scratch your head that we just can't do. So he's still a work in progress, but certainly glad he's with us, and he's definitely improved.
We go to Steve, please.
Hi, Coach. You talk about every week going 1-0 and how important that is to be 1-0. But when you get into the conference games, you're expecting different intensity from the players, or how do you approach a conference game compared to the non-conference opponents?
We don't. Again, it's about being 1-0 this week. It's more about us. I don't know how you do that. If one game's supposed to be bigger than the other, and you don't do well in that game, I mean, it doesn't add up for me. Every game, everybody's got to play well to have a chance to win a game. I think anybody on our schedule is capable of beating you if you don't play well, and if your focus isn't on that next opponent and it doesn't add up each week, then I don't know how you could expect your best performance. Each team has to get better, each week, and that's a sign of a championship team. The great ones I've been around, that's what's happened. It didn't matter who you were playing, and we got to keep working that way.
And when you see when you're looking at North Carolina on film, and they seem to have some similar things going on with them this year. They had a disappointing loss this weekend. They had a tight game on the road against a Sun Belt team. Do you see this do you see them kind of as a similar type of team, or do you see a lot of differences between you guys?
Yeah, I don't know that we're similar teams. They're sitting at 3-1. I think they've gone on the road twice and won a couple of close games. Notre Dame probably played their best football game Saturday, to be honest, in beating North Carolina. I think this is a really talented team. They've recruited well. Unfortunately, several of those players from the Commonwealth, and they're a talented football team that we'll have our hands full with these guys. So, I think obviously Mac Brown's been doing it a long time, and he's been there in Chapel Hill a while, so their culture's established. They got a pretty good idea who they are and who they want to be.
Thanks.
2 more on Zoom. We'll go David and then Mike.
Brent, given Drake May's youth and inexperience, have opponents tried to blitz him an inordinate amount to rattle him? And if so, how have he and the offensive line responded to that?
Yeah, I think Drake in particular has handled it well. He's taken some shots. He's a very tough quarterback. He's taken some big hits, on pressure in the throw game and when he's ran around on draw plays or scramble plays. But he'll sit in there and throw the ball. He's one of those guys that can just kind of flick the wrist and throw it a pretty good tempo. So I've been very impressed with this kid. It's one of those times you put the film on and you go, oh, shoot, this kid's much better than I anticipated him being.
And then you were talking about depth earlier. Is there much prospect for in-game depth along the offensive line, or is it pretty much riding the 5 guys you're starting?
Yeah, right now that's what it is. We had a conversation yesterday and a little bit today about a couple of candidates that are close to, let's put these guys in the game. Let's give them a series in the first half. Let's give them a series in the second and see if we can't, get some reps out of them, build the depth, but still maintain some consistency and continuity with our front.
Hey, Brent, a couple of questions on Dax Holyfield. First, on the field, he seems to be maybe even more productive than he's been in recent years, big plays. Have you been pleased with his play between the lines on the field?
Yes, I think he's I agree with you. I think he's playing his best football right now. And, he's leading the defense and doing some good things out there.
And he talked a lot going into the year about leadership and you coaching him to kind of tighten his message, not say so much, have one thing and for him it was consistency. How would you rate his consistency, and has he been able to translate that to some of the other guys on that unit?
Yeah, I think his leadership's been outstanding in practice and games. He's not deterred, but the sign for me was, he's sharing that now, and he's trying to influence others and bring them along in tough situations. He's done a nice job of that.
And if I could sneak in one more, you mentioned after the game that you think Grant Wells has played well enough for you to win. When you reviewed the tape, how did you evaluate his play? And honestly, do you have any other options if he wasn't playing well enough for you to win?
Well, yeah, because I think Jason is, as I've mentioned multiple times, I think he's a really good number 2. And, but I think Grant, as I watched the film, I think he played well enough for us to win. I think it was more about, us not being able to run the ball, them being able to run the ball better than I cared for, and then the penalty situation. I think those were the deciding factors in the game.
Thank you.
Okay, Travis.
All right, thanks, everybody. Thanks, Coach.
All right. Yeah. Appreciate you guys.
All right, questions for Steven. Andy?
Stephen, obviously with it being UNC week, is there a little more juice to this matchup for you going down there again?
I wouldn't say so. It's obviously a different scenario playing against them that I used to be there, but I try to, bring the same juice that I have for every game.
What has your season been like? I know you were nicked up a little bit in August, I think, and then you came back, and so far, receptions in a couple games so far. Do you feel like you're progressing the way you want to?
Yeah, most definitely. I think I am. Obviously, I got areas to improve. That after every game, I watch myself. I try to be harder on myself than the coaches can. Yeah, I think I definitely have steps to take, but I am proud of how I'm playing right now, and hope to continue to play good.
Where do you feel like you've improved the most since you got to Blacksburg?
Shoot, since I got here, I'll say my blocking really, because in this offense, I'm required to block safeties more often. And at UNC, we didn't blocking wasn't a big part in the offense. So when I got here, I would say my blocking definitely.
Was blocking something you were familiar with already, and What was that adjustment like, and do you enjoy that?
Yeah, I mean, I was familiar with it, obviously. There mostly I played like the slot, so I was like blocking backers over hang defenders. But now here, I play mostly like just outside receiver. So yeah, I actually do enjoy it. Sometimes kind of wakes me up, gets me going a little bit.
As the receiver group as a whole, where do you feel like you guys have taken the most steps under Fontel Mines through these first couple weeks?
I would just say playing like clean football, executing. I feel like everybody in the room's done a good job who's ever gone in there. We've been able to put new guys in and just execution, really.
Back in the room, Anthony.
Yeah, Steven, I know you were on the other side last year, but obviously the game against the Tar Heels to start the year, first game back with fans in the stands after kickoff. Just what was that experience like for you on the other side? And then do you get the sense that maybe there's some extra juice? I know this has kind of been a rivalry that's been building up the last few years.
Yeah, so coming in here last year, that was my first game, because my freshman year was COVID year. We had gone to Florida State, and they were pretty loud, but it was definitely the loudest I'd ever been in. You really couldn't hear yourself think. But yeah, now being on this part of it, I didn't, obviously it's a coastal rivalry, but when you're at, at Carolina, it wasn't I feel like here, they really don't like Carolina as much as Carolina don't like VT, which I've grown to be aware of now.
David.
Just wondering in this offense, obviously a lot of the responsibility goes to Grant Wells, but I'm wondering how does that wide receiver room or the offense as a whole kind of provide support for Grant, especially when he makes a mistake or commits a penalty or throws an interception.
I think really it just comes down to doing your 111. Really, everyone's got to do their own job. We can't worry about what he's doing. We can't worry about what the O-line or the running back's doing. Really, it's just go out there and do your job. You can't worry about nobody else.
And one kind of non-football question. You're from Meadows of Dan. I actually have a really good friend at Meadows of Dan. How do you describe what that town is like to people who've never been there before?
So I'm from Pilot Mountain, North Carolina, but that's where my parents live now. But
well, you've been there, right?
Yeah, that's where I live now. But yeah, so how do I describe it? It's just the middle of nowhere. There's nothing around it. It's just a bunch of woods and cows.
But you like it, right?
It can be relaxing. Yeah, if you need to go down, just chillax. Yeah, it can be relaxing.
Steven, you mentioned the noise at Lane Stadium. As an offensive player, when you go into a hostile environment, how do you all work on that to kind of simulate that? And then how does that actually translate to the game when you're in the situation and the fans are going crazy and it's hard to hear? Like, does that translate from practice to the game well?
Obviously you can try to mimic it in practice with crowd noise in the indoor. But honestly, until you really experience it, until in person or whatever, you really can't mimic, try to get ready for it. So, as an offense, last year or whatever, it does stir up a lot of communication problems.
Aaron.
Hey, Steven. Coach Pry was in here earlier, and he said you were talking about doing your 111th, and he said he felt like kind of late in that game on Thursday, guys were trying to do a little too much. Did you notice that too, or guys were pressing a little bit? And maybe you guys got to pull back and maybe focus a little bit more on just the 111th part of it.
Yeah, I think sometimes when you get down, you met some people you try to do more than you can than you're really supposed to. But really, I think it comes down to you really just gotta take it play by play. You can't make a play that hasn't happened yet. So. I don't feel like I don't know what he said about it, but it's just it just comes down to really doing your job and not trying to force things that aren't there, really.
And obviously, we know UNC is very explosive. I mean, do you guys kind of feel a responsibility as an offense to kind of take a little pressure off the defense because they're probably going to give up a few points, you would think?
Yeah, most definitely. They got an explosive offense. They got explosive players. Draco's a good quarterback. He can sling it anywhere. They got good wideouts. I've been with them, good speed. So, yeah, we definitely we know as an offense that we got to help our defense out more. You know, stay on the field longer, gives them a better break. So yeah, hopefully we can. And obviously that comes with our preparation this week. Just trying to have a good Tuesday practice today. Trying to improve next week.
Thanks, man.
David, and then we'll go to Zoom.
Where have you seen Christian Moss grow the most since you've gotten to know him?
Yeah, so I think his maturity and just learning this offense, and his confidence a lot, because Moss has always had the talent. I've seen that from day one. He can do pretty much what is it good as any receiver I've been around. So yeah, just his confidence, really just getting out there, knowing he can do things, and just getting game reps, because game's not practice or whatever. So now getting game reps, he's growing week by week. He's just gonna keep getting better.
Thanks.
All right, Mike, any Zoom questions?
On Zoom, use the raise hand feature for questions for Stephen. Any questions? All right, Travis, think we're all set.
All right. Anything else in the room for Steven? Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Steven.
Appreciate it.